In April this year, social distancing measures saw half of all adults in employment working from home, 49.2% to be precise, according to the Office for National Statistics. Jack Dorsey's Twitter and Square said employees can work from home forever. Google and Facebook have told employees they can work from home until the end of this year, and I'm sure many, many more will follow. For some organizations, working from home can work very well. But what does it look like when your business is broadcasting live TV? In just a moment, Andy Beale, Chief Engineer at BT Sport, will be joining us. But first, let's take a look at how BT Sport, in particular the MotoGP broadcasts, for any fans watching, how they faced up to the challenge of broadcasting live with a remote workforce.
So we're going all over the world for this programme, and actually to make the programme we of course are following the government's understandable lockdown measures, but it's meant our crew are all over the place. We've got a skeleton crew over in West London. There's Tim down in Sussex, Jamie on the Football Manager, there's Ron. So many are just in their bedrooms, in the front room as you saw there with Ron. There's our producer on his lounge table over in Norfolk. Our sound guys have even converted their garage into a mixing desk, which is incredible. This is an unprecedented show. You've heard that word a lot, haven't you, over the last few weeks? But it's the first time anything like this has ever been tried in live TV. So fingers crossed that it all goes to plan.
We were really keen to carry on working. So this is actually my study. It's amazing what you can find in your garage. I found a load of old furniture. We've stuck it all in here to try and create our very own little studio. And so I'm broadcasting from my house over the mobile phone network. And everyone that joins us on the show is going to do exactly the same. All of the crew are in their own houses, in isolation, also working on their mobile phones. So it's not easy. You are going to have to bear with us. But we really wanted to do something to bring you a little bit of light-hearted football chat at this difficult time.
We set up 2 vision mixers at home with full vision mixer tops. All the multi-viewers and monitoring you'd expect to find in a gallery. We equipped 3 EVS positions in EVS staff's homes. We then equipped sound teams with home mixing consoles, spot-on systems. Home graphic stations were set up for the provision of live on-screen graphics. And lastly, our production teams. Our directors, our producers, our PAs, APs, VT coords, all these teams were equipped with home monitoring and talkback.
And with live sport back on our screens all of a sudden, and busy it is too, it's a fascinating time to be joined by the brains behind BT Sport's move to remote working, Andy Beale. Andy, thanks for joining us. I have to say before we start, that's a really impressive setup you've got in your home there.
Thank you, David. And thanks everyone, thanks for having me. Nice you could join us. Absolutely, this is set up, which is a little bit like we put into our people's homes where they're working remotely on content, be that the MotoGP show, The Greatest Years and The Greatest Race you just saw in that little BT, or our early kickoff show, which held us together from a football perspective in the days with no soccer in stadiums, through to things like we had e-gaming strand, and then of course now more recently we're producing real live sport in this situation. So the Bundesliga was the first league back, all those people at home working remotely, collaboratively in that way, and now of course the most exciting one, I shouldn't say that, but I can. Premier League back, all being done in the same way from people's houses. And in fact, if you're interested, this screen over to my my right shoulder here is actually the Premier League studio, where the team are getting ready for tonight's game. Man City are at Chelsea. We might just see Liverpool win the title. So this is real. This is happening right in front of your eyes behind me.
No, it's fascinating stuff, and as a broadcast tech fan and a sports fan, I could chat for ages about this, but let's save that for another time. Let's carry on talking about transformation. But before we do, I just want to refer viewers back to another poll that we're going to set up just while we're chatting, and it's this: as the country gradually returns to normality, what proportion of your workforce will continue to have the option to work remotely? We've got a handful of options there. Let us know about the future of remote working for your workforce, if indeed there is one, and we'll come back to that in a few moments' time. But Andy, Set the scene for us, and in particular, what you are responsible for at BT Sport, because clearly there's a lot of moving parts based all over the country and a lot of people that bring live sport to our living room. So how do you make that happen?
Yeah, so my role is kind of in two parts. The first part of my job as chief engineer is being responsible for all of the technology that lives in our technology stack, be that in our studio complex in the Stratford in the East End of London, or with partners. So we have a big partnership model who really support what BT Sport do. So making sure that what the infrastructure they're putting in and buying and connecting together is all part of that stack and is correct. So basically it's looking after that, and then line managing or service managing through our partners the delivery of that content, making sure it goes safe to air. So content safety, keeping BT Sport on air 24/7, 365 is the most important part, if you like, of that role. And the second part is about innovation, and it's about transformation. It's about how do we change BT Sport for the better? How do we keep moving BT Sport forward? We're really proud, actually, that at BT Sport we've always had a very proud heritage of innovation and change, and that isn't just on screen. People will think about the on-screen things we've done. We were leaders in 4K. We were leaders in immersive audio with Dolby Atmos and HDR last year. But actually, there's lots of other change which we have going on behind the scenes, which enables us to have better editorial experiences. How we connect our customers better with the experience they're watching. We have a saying which is really important, an ethos, if you like, which is we say we want to take our customers to the heart of sport. And so we measure everything we do in a transformational innovation way, both on screen and behind, against this benchmark of will it actually take our customers, our viewers, our fans closer to the heart of sport? And if it won't, we don't do it. And so everything we do and move forward is done on that basis.
So that's another example, as we were chatting about earlier on, about how having a vision and using that as a North Star, if you like, to help guide your transformation and make sure it's all moving in the right direction is really important. And an example of that is the VR viewing experience, the 360 video viewing experience that you have in your app. That literally does take you to the heart of the stadium.
Absolutely right. That's absolutely key. And we have a whole range of innovations, including, like you say, the 360 experience. We have a second saying, which is obviously the best place to watch sport is at the stadium. But right now, you can't get there. And we've always said that we want the second place to watch sport to be not on TV, but with BT Sport. So we want to differentiate ourselves from other content providers and bring experiences which really allow fans to connect. So 360, you put yourself really close to the action, look around, you really feel part of it. The Dolby Atmos immersive audio, the 4K, having the live data stats on the phone, having the interaction with the interactive timeline, having the ability to go back and see any camera replay of any goal or other instant in the match. All these things enable you to have that experience. But I think you're right. Having the vision, having the key driver is so important. So you know where you're going, making a really clear decision about what brings benefit, what brings real insight and change for your customers, and then following that through, is really important.
So in terms of the digital operation at BT Sport and the transformation that's been happening, I was actually at your studios in Stratford earlier this year before lockdown, and learning a lot more about some of the remote working, the remote production capabilities that you've got. Not only is that kind of interesting from a technical point of view, but also from a workforce point of view, what that enables. So just tell us a bit more about that digital operation and how it benefits viewers, but also people who work for you.
Absolutely, and I think I want to echo something that Alex just said, actually, because we were lucky, or not lucky. I think we actually took benefit from all the work we've been doing on the remote at work in COVID. That's why we were able to do these amazing things, because we were already doing a strategy of change, which empowered it. And I can tell you a bit about that. So we'd started migrating our National League and our Women's Super League football coverage to being what we were calling at the time remote production, or you might call it stay-at-home production, where people who would normally go on the road, go on an OB or an outside broadcast, or would be at a venue, at a stadium, to frankly sit in a dark, cold room and not see the football or see the event, commuting loads and loads of miles up and down the motorway to sit in a truck that's hard to get into and is inaccessible is a really sort of strange thing if you think about it. I mean, if you invented TV in 2020 and said, I know how we're going to do it, we're going to put £6 million worth of kit in a lorry and we're going to drive it up and down the motorways all day, and people are going to follow it in cars or trains, and then they're going to go sit in a small cramped space where it's really uncomfortable. People would think you're crazy, right? So we'd always been thinking about this as a future. And there's two other really important things. It's not particularly sustainable because we're using a lot of fuel mileage, we're moving people around, and it's really not accessible. We wanted to develop a new BT Sport, which was a real citizen of our environment, was really playing our part in changing our footprint in terms of carbon emissions and all those sorts of things, but also becoming a much more inclusive and accessible broadcaster. So people who couldn't get into an OB truck before because they had maybe a physical disability, they can come to a studio where we've got all the correct things in place to allow them to do that. And maybe do it closer to home by having regional hubs, or maybe even doing it in their own home, which is the extension of that original piece of work that we're now doing in COVID.
Yeah, and again, it's that thing echoing what Michael said earlier on. I'm pleased we all seem to be on the same page today. This is really heartening. Is that opportunity to start again with a blank piece of paper. And if we were reinventing our business or beginning our business, our operation, whatever it is right now, what would it look like with the tools that we have, with the capabilities that we have available to us? And that leads me on to my next question. It goes without saying that what you're talking about, 4G, 5G broadcasts of some matches and so on, all of that relies upon a flexible, reliable network, doesn't it?
Absolutely right. And people always say to me, well, are you using fiber? Are you using domestic broadband? Are you using 4G? And the answer is we're using all of them. These are all tools that enable us to connect people in the right situation wherever they are. There's no right tool for each individual case. You have to find the right network tool and apply it. But what is key is that which network tool you choose is reliable and will deliver what you need in that place. So some of our people at home are connected on domestic broadband, some are connected on dedicated services, and quite a lot are using 4 or 5G. But it's that combination of networks, bringing together the power of those networks together, which has empowered everything you saw in that video. And it's enabling, literally, right now, the Vision Mixer is at home in Northampton, sat with a much bigger Vision Mixer than I've got here, controlling an OB, which is in Chelsea. This is why the network is absolutely critical to that delivery. But it's not just one, it's choosing the right network product, whether it be mobile, cellular, or a fixed line, or a combination thereof. Actually, quite a lot of our solutions take the best of both. We have a box which is a bonding device which takes in both fixed line connectivity and mobile, and we bond them together not only for better speed but also for resilience if we have failure on one or the other networks.
Just a final question, I'm just going to go off piece, but you've set up your ability to remotely work from a production point of view, but also to use the power of the network and cameras and remote production to bring in sport to wherever it needs to, from wherever it needs to come. Tell me, what's the future then? You do have a fantastic facility at Stratford, for example. What is the future of what's your vision for what's next, given that clearly your remote working and remote production test production has been so successful?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always had an extension of that vision. Phase one was to bring the operations from the OB trucks, from the outside world, back into the studios. And there are some benefits to that. I've mentioned the key drivers were sustainability and accessibility, but also there are drivers around economics and about efficiencies. Of course there are, but they're not the drivers. They are really handy benefits that come with that original decision to change. But we always knew that came with a second layer of problem, which was then all we really do is then ask everyone to come to London. And we didn't want to be that person either. We didn't want to then centralise the requirement for all those people. We wanted to be able people to work close to their home. And so the vision was in stage two was they had the choice. They could work at the OB itself, if that's nearer to home, or the studios. And the third vision was then we'd have regional hubs where they could go to. And then because of COVID, we added a fourth vision, which is then the right people can definitely then also work from home. So the strategy was already there. All we've really done is add the fourth block on it at the end of it as an extra target. But to be honest with you, like you say, we're already doing that piece of work now. People are working right now. And last night was the first ever Premier League game produced from somebody's home on the TV. So it's amazing technology. Wow. I wanted, if I can, just quickly, part of this question that was written down I wanted to talk about was the phrase new normal. I think the question was about this is part of the new normal. I think new normal is a very dangerous phrase to come to a point you said in your question. I think people who look at new normal aren't looking at what is the future. I don't like the phrase new normal. We've got the past, which is where we all used to be. We've got the present, which is what we're having to do right now, and we've got the future. And the future is really exciting. And if you keep thinking about, what does this new normal look like for me? What it actually means is you're looking down and you're not looking forward. And the people who really can make a real big difference in this current climate, and people who will really transform businesses, people who will be around still trading and be really healthy and growth businesses in 2, 5, 10 years' time, are the ones that are not looking down thinking, what is new normal? Looking forward with a real vision to the future, saying, what is the future for us and how do we make it work and how do we get there?
Amen. Well said. We've been asking our viewers. No. It's a strong point. Very, very well made, and I'm pleased you put it in. We've been asking our viewers about this return to normality and what proportion of the workforce will continue to have the opportunity to work remotely. Yes, it seems as though a lot, 2/3, I'm seeing 60% here, saying we're going to take this time to assess the needs of our staff and create more flexible remote working models. So yes, it certainly seems as though this new future, perhaps, is very much what's on people's radar. Listen, thank you very much indeed, Andy.